Hello everyone. I welcome you all to ATM Creations and I welcome you all to Zero to Hero series of videos as well. In this video, I'm going to tell you how to use these dotting tools and create some simple patterns. Let's get started. There are three sets of dotting tools which normally a dot mandala artist will use. Now this is the first set of tools and these are actually called as acrylic rods and they are generally 8 in number and each tool is of different size and the biggest being this big and the smallest is like this. So each tool is going to produce different sized dots and I'll tell you what kind of challenges normally people face while using these tools and how to overcome those challenges. And I'm also going to tell you what kind of mistakes people make and how not to make those mistakes while dotting using these tools. Among these 8, let us start with the biggest tool and this is green tool. I actually do not know the size of the dot this tool produces. Generally these are colored, so I call it as green tool. So that's how I'm going to point at this tool throughout this video. In the previous video, I talked about the consistency of the paint, and consistency of the paint for dotting should be creamy like how it is here. Now I'm going to use this dark green acrylic color and this green tool. I'll tell you how to dot now. Now if you are a very beginner to dot painting, remember you should dip only the tip of the tool into the paint, or normally what beginners may do is they put the entire tool into the paint. So what happens is when you put the entire tool into the paint, instead of only the tip of the tool having paint, the sides will also have some. So as a beginner, if you are beginning to dot, and it may be difficult for you to handle a huge amount of paint on the tool. So it's better consciously dip only the tip of the tool into the paint, like how I did here. See the sides, there's no paint. Now I'm going to dot on the surface. Here the painting surface is a normal A4 sheet. I just drew some lines as a guideline for myself. Now, when you have taken the paint and you're going to dot on a surface, make sure you will gently touch the surface and not press hard against it. So now I'm going to gently touch the surface. A dot is created. Now I'll also tell you what will happen if you press hard against the surface. So I've taken some paint. If you press hard against the surface, the dot is bigger, but it doesn't look as nice as this one. So now I'll again gently touch the surface. See how beautiful the dot comes. So remember, when you use these tools, you will dip only the tip of the tool into the paint and then gently touch the surface so that you get amazing dots using these acrylic rods. Now if you see, I've created 3 dots with this same tool and all the 3 dots are in different sizes. This is the biggest, this seems to be a medium sized dot and this seems to be smaller. Why is it so? I use the same tool, I use the same paint, but why is the size of the dots different? It all depends on the amount of paint you pick up with this tool and the amount of pressure you give on the tool and the surface. Now, if you want to produce bigger dots, but I don't want to press hard against the surface, what you can do is you can take more amount of paint. Instead of dipping only the tip, you can dip a little more. See, now even the sides have some paint. In this case, now look at the size of this dot is certainly bigger than this one. This is bigger and this is smaller. Here I have picked up more amount of paint than I picked up when I created this dot. So with the same tool, creating different sized dots is absolutely possible, and the possibility is based on the amount of paint you pick up with the tool. Okay, so initially if you are a very beginner, I would strongly suggest you dip only the tip of the tool into the paint consciously and press gently against the surface and create some amazing dots so that you know what sized dots these rods can produce. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep two dots. For the first one, I'm going to dip only the tip of the tool. For the second dot, I'm going to dip a little more into the paint. Let's see the difference. Look at the obvious difference between these two dots. This is smaller, this is bigger, and I use the same tool. And the only difference is here I dipped only the tip of the tool. For this dot, I dipped a little more into the paint like this. Now I'm using the second biggest tool. I call this a yellow tool. I repeat, I don't know the size of the dot this tool can produce. Now remember, the consistency of the paint is extremely important. If it is too runny, before you pick up the paint and go to the surface, it's going to drip off. If it is too thick, even if you press hard, the paint is not going to completely create a perfect dot. So it is extremely important for your paint to be in a creamy consistency. Let's see what kind of dots these tools can produce. Just to show you the difference, I used the same yellow tool. For the first one, I dipped only the tip of the tool. For the second one, I took a little more paint than the tip. Sometimes people do ask, how do I know before dotting, how do I know whether the paint is in the right consistency or not? So let me tell you what I normally do. Now I'll just take a tool and then do it like this. When you do it like this, it creates a small mountain and the mountain immediately goes off. If that is the case, it means the paint is in the right consistency. This is how I check the consistency of the paint before I dot. Now let's dot with another tool. I call this as pink tool. Now for the first two dots, I was so conscious, I dipped only the tip of the tool into the paint. For the third dot, I dipped a little more. Look at the sides here, I dipped a little more. So hence the third dot is bigger than the first two. While the first two are uniform, the third one is bigger. Sometimes people do ask when I create dot mandala and record those videos and upload it in my channel. People do ask, ma'am, you say that you don't measure the circles, but when you seem to dot, your dots perfectly fit into the circle. How is that possible? Now what happens is I have dotted like this maybe 1,000 times now. I don't know how many thousand dots I would have created. So what happens is when you repeatedly keep using these tools, you master the size of the dot a tool can produce, and accordingly you create random circles. Now let's say if I want to use this particular tool, then I create circles accordingly. Or if I want to use this tool, then I create circles accordingly. Because I clearly know what kind of a dot or what sized dot this tool can produce. And you will be able to master the size of the dot these tools can produce only if you practice this dotting at least in 10 different A4 sheets. In one A4 sheet, one tool. So maybe in 8 different A4 sheets, draw some lines and keep dotting. Maybe initially when I say this, people may think that isn't it crazy to keep dotting in one full paper only using this tool? No, it is not crazy. It will only improve your expertise in understanding the size of the dot a tool can produce. Now using this tool, let me produce some dots. Now if you see these 4 dots, they are incrementally bigger. So what I did was, initially I dipped only the tip of the tool, then a little more, and then a little more than earlier. Now I dipped to whatever extent that is possible. See, a same tool can produce multiple sized dots. It's absolutely possible, and the possibility, I repeat, it is only based on the amount of paint you pick up with the tool. Now this is another tool among those 8 acrylic rods, and I call it as purple tool. This is the size that it normally produces. Now if I'm going to pick up a little more paint, look at the size of the dot. Isn't this one and this look similar in size? See, here I dipped only the tip, here I dipped it like this. There is a difference, but the size of the dot is almost the same. So in the set of 8 tools, 5 are colored and 3 are plain, and I call these tools as plain big tool, plain medium tool, and plain small tool. That is how I call these tools as I teach a lot of people dot mandala. This is how I point at these tools. So now I'm going to use plain big tool to create some dots. Look at the size of dots these plain big tool can produce. See, these 2 dots are similar in size because I was consciously dipping only the tip of the tool in the paint. Here I picked up a little more. Here I picked up as much as possible with this tool. So again, another example here, the same sized tool can produce multiple sized dots. This is plain medium tool. This is the size of dots plain medium tools can produce. This is plain small, the last tool in the set of 8. I love this tool so much because the tiny dots these tools can produce, I really love them. I'm sure this video was useful to all of you. Stay tuned for the next video. In the next video, I'm going to tell you, using these 8 tools, what are the simple patterns that you can create. Thank you for watching this video. Hello everyone. I welcome you all to ATM Creations, and I welcome you all to Zero to Hero series of videos too. In this video, we are going to learn some very basic patterns which we can make using these acrylic rods, and these can be considered as patterns or as a practice how to use these tools, and some practice for spacing the dots right as well. Let's get started with the patterns now. Now in the first pattern that we are going to make, I'm going to use these 2 tools, pink and purple. Now I'll use this acrylic color to place a dot. Now using this tool, I'm going to keep 4 dots around this main dot, top, bottom, right and left. Let me repeat the pattern now. Using this pink tool, you can keep the main dot. Now I'm going to keep 4 dots around this. Now the purpose of we doing this pattern is to practice equal spacing of dots. So how are we practicing the equal spacing here? Now I'm placing a top dot. Now look at the space between this main dot and the top dot. Now when I keep dot at the bottom, I'm going to make sure I maintain the same space. Now I'll keep a right side dot and I'll keep a dot on the left. See, if you look at here in this pattern, if not the space is exactly the same between the main dots and the side dots, they are almost the same. The next thing is, the spacing between the any two side dots is also almost the same. Now, this makes definitely a pattern, but majorly the purpose would be to help you practice equal spacing between the dots. In this space, I'm going to repeat the same pattern but make some mistakes intentionally to help you understand how, when mistakes are made, the outcome is going to differ. Here I am keeping the center dot, or you can also call it a main dot. Now, using this tool, 4 dots is what I'm going to keep. The top dot first, the bottom dot next, the right, and the left. If you look at these two, we use same acrylic paint, same type of dotting tools, and we made these two patterns. But if you look at which one is looking better, definitely this is looking better than this one. Why? Because the spacing is completely different from each other. Here it is very less, here it is too much. When compared to this space, this is too much definitely. And these two, though the spacing between the main dot and the right and left are almost equal, they are exactly not aligned to 4 different directions of a main dot. Say they look here and there, so spacing is extremely important to make a pattern look really nice. And to get the spacing right, you must practice this pattern at least minimum of 20 times, minimum, so that you get the spacing right. And when creating a dot mandala, spacing is extremely critical for you to get a beautiful outcome. So do practice this pattern multiple times. Now, as a next practice, I'm going to keep a dot, that is the main dot, using this yellow tool. Now, instead of 4 dots around the main one, now we are going to keep 6 dots around the main dot. So here we start with top dot and bottom dot. When we have to keep 6 dots around this main dot, so between this top and the bottom, here you need to keep 2 dots. So since you have to keep 2 dots between this top and the bottom here and here as well, you need some space. Here in this pattern, you created only 4 dots. So top, bottom, right and left. If you look at this pattern, though the top and the bottom dots are closer to each other, since you have to keep only one more dot in between those two, you have a lot of space. But here I have chosen a slightly bigger tool as well, and you have to keep 2 dots. I have spaced it with a little more space than I did here. Let me keep 2 dots now. I repeat this pattern again. So you keep one main dot using this yellow tool, a top dot with a little extra space, bottom dot. Some people have asked me, how do you choose the exact place to dot the 2 side dots here? So what I do is, in between these two, this is the space. So give a little extra space so that you imagine a circle around completely. This is one half circle, this is another half circle. So if you have to form a kind of a half circle shape here, obviously you wouldn't dot here. You would dot a little away from it. So what you can do is, instead of dotting this closer here, you can choose to dot a little away from it. Some of them have asked me, ma'am, why should we keep a dot, top dot, bottom dot, and then 2 side dots here and there? Why can't we draw a circle and then do this dotting practice? It will look much better, no? I said, yes, the answer is definitely yes. But then, if you start practicing without a guideline right at the beginning, you will get your spacing much better when you do it with guideline. So that's my fundamental of always suggesting people to start dotting without a guideline first. Now we kept 4 dots and 6 dots around the main dot. We will now try doing 8 dots around the main dot. So I'll keep a main dot here. Now I'm going to keep 8 dots. So first a top dot, bottom dot, right, left, and then in between top and right. Now in between bottom and right, bottom left, top left. Now again for this pattern, you imagine a circle around the main dot so that it looks like a circular form after you finish dotting. Let me tell you normally what people do when they start beginning to practice this pattern. I've organized a lot of offline workshops and have taught a lot of people, and this is what they do. They keep a main dot like this, and when I ask them to keep 8 dots, they happily keep top, bottom, right. So instead of imagining a circle around the main dot, seems like they imagined a square and then they keep it like this. I don't think I have done as any beginner would do, but still, what happens is it neither looks like a square nor a circle. This is somewhere in between. So, if you want to do it right from the beginning, imagine a circle around the main dot, and then when you dot between this right and the bottom dot, you pull it little backward. You don't have to keep it exactly straight in a straight. Don't imagine a straight line. Instead, you imagine a curved line so that automatically the dot will come a little backward. So, in that case, the 8 dots will definitely form a circle. Just as an example, so I have this kind of a protractor where there are a lot of circles. So I use this protractor, draw a small circle, and I'm going to try the same pattern here, a main dot and 8 dots around. So far I did without guideline. Now this is with guideline. The center dot is done. Now I'm going to keep 8 dots here. Now this is definitely looking better than this one and this. So that's the power of using a guideline for dotting. However, I would still suggest when you start using these tools for dotting these, I would suggest you do it without guideline. Then you can move on to doing it with guideline. You can create thousands of patterns using these just 8 acrylic rods. Okay, and one of the most favorite pattern of mine is what I'm going to do it here. So there is one dot that I have kept almost without space, another, top and bottom. Now as close as possible. I somehow love this pattern so much. You must have seen this pattern in many of my dot mandalas. You can now either use alternate color or the same color. I'm using the same color just for an example now. One. In between every bigger dots, I'll keep a smaller dot too. How does this look? Let me know in the comment section how this pattern looks. I'm sure this video was very useful to you. Practice all these patterns and let me know how did you get it. Thank you for watching this video. Hello everyone. I welcome you all to ATM Creations and I welcome you all back to Zero to Hero series of videos too. In this video, we will look at some of the beautiful patterns. Let's get started. Let's look at a simple pattern with this one tool. Now I'm going to keep 2 dots. Dot 1 I have kept here. Just above this, another dot. So not much of a space in between the two, though they don't touch each other. This forms a simple pattern using the same 4 dots Let me show you how differently you can make a pattern. I kept the first dot. Now here between the first and the second dot there is no much of a space, but here I'm going to leave some good amount of space and keep the second dot. Now I'll keep two side dots too. So same tool, same paint, 4 dots, but look at the difference in the outcome, and it is only because of the space we gave. Now I'll use this plain big tool to keep 2 dots side by side. And I'll keep a bigger dot at the top. This forms a simple pattern too. Now I'm going to use only this tool and make a very simple pattern again. This forms a simple pattern again. So the next thing that you need to know is this set of 5 tools. And this tool is basically used for nail art, and over a period of time we started using it as dot mandala tools as well. Now these are popularly known as dot mandala tools, whereas their original purpose was nail art. Okay, now coming to the purpose of these tools with dot mandala, when you look at the two sides of a tool, one side it's going to have a bigger sized ball, the other side it's going to be smaller. So each tool has similarly, like for example in this blue tool, this side it is bigger and this side it is smaller. When you look at this white tool for another example, this side is bigger and this side it is smaller. So every tool has balls like that. One side it is bigger, the other side it is smaller. Now these tools can simply be used for the purpose of dotting, or you can also do something called working the dots, which we will see now. Now I'm going to keep a dot with this tool. Now I'll use this green tool, the small ball side of it. I'm going to keep tiny dots around this main bigger dot. So first I'll keep a top dot, then the one at the bottom. So one in the right, one in the left, then I'm going to keep one in the middle and all the 4 sides. So when you use these nail art tools for dotting purpose, the balls are tiny. So you need to be really slow in dotting. Now after keeping 8 dots here, looks like I can keep 2 more dots in between. So I'll do this all over. See, with these kind of dotting tools, these are acrylic rods. With these kind of acrylic rods, the way we dot is like this. We dip into the paint, we keep a dot. We dip again and then we keep a dot. So if you want to keep 10 dots, you will dip 10 times. This is how we normally dot using these acrylic rods kind of dotting tools. So using this tool, let me tell you how do you do working the dots. So you dip not just the tip of the tool, but a little more like this. But once you dip it and pick it out, you won't wait or be slow until you touch the surface. So dip, pick it out, start dotting immediately. This technique of dipping the tool into the paint just once and picking up as much paint as possible, start dotting immediately, because when you pick up more paint and if you delay to touch the surface, it's going to drip off randomly. So to avoid that, make sure you keep the paint pot near the place where you want to start dotting. Then dip the tool into the paint. Start dotting immediately. Now, in this working the dots technique, what happens is when you touch the surface first, it's going to drip off a lot of paint, and as you keep dotting, there is only less amount of paint. So the more consecutively you keep dots, the more it gets incrementally smaller. So this is called working the dots. Now a simple pattern with this technique. So I'll dip, I'll keep it like this, and then in a curved fashion I'll keep work the dots. I can add 2 more layers. You can add as many as you want, but I'm adding 2 more. This can form a beautiful pattern. Now here, using this tool, I'm going to keep 2 dots. Now I'm going to keep 1 dot at the top. So if you see the difference between the main and the top dot, there is almost no space is what I can say, but here there is a lot of space. I'm going to work the dots in a curved fashion. I've taken enough paint. Now I'll do the same thing with this. Pattern is actually the same. This looks short and wider, and this looks thin and taller, and that's only because the distance between the main dot and the dot at the top. Nothing else is the difference. Let me now tell you the challenge some people face while doing this pattern. Keeping a main dot is easy. Keeping a dot at the top is also easier. However, for forming this arch or a curve kind of a pattern, where exactly do you keep your first dot? That matters a lot. Now I'll do it in a right way, and then I'll also do it in an incorrect way. You can see how it looks. See, I'll keep it little downwards and sidewards too. Okay, I have kept a main dot now. I've kept a top dot as well. Now instead of keeping down and side, if you keep only side here, this doesn't look so nice as this one. So placement of the first dot for working the dots technique is extremely critical to get the outcome nice. Now with the same pattern, what if you want to build multiple layers of working the dots like this? 1, 2, 3, like that. What if you want to do like that? Now you can keep a bigger dot here, that is your main dot. When you want to build multiple layers of dot, this is what I normally do. I take the plane tools, small, medium and big. The first layer dot would be using the small tool, the second one using medium, and the third one using the big tool. So now I think you can clearly see that it is incrementally bigger. This is how I normally like it. There is no hard and fast rule that when you build multiple layers of working the dots like this, it must be incrementally bigger. No such rule like that. So you can make it the same size also, but somehow I personally believe when you make it incrementally bigger, it looks nice at the end. If you see these 3 tools, these 3 are the big ball side of the respective tools. Comparing the big ball side of these 3 tools, white is smaller, blue is medium, green is bigger. So what I'm going to do is, For the first layer, I'll use white. For the second layer, I'll use blue. And for the third layer, I'll use green. When it comes to the first layer, from this dot to the end, the distance is shorter. So what I can do is, I can dip this tool into the paint just once and start working the dots. For the second layer, I'll use this blue tool. Now the distance between this dot from source to destination. Now the distance is a little more. So even if you take a lot of paint with this tool, it may not be enough. So in such case, what I do is, I dip it once and keep the first dot, and I dip it again, then start working the dots. I'll do it for the other side also. Dip and then keep one dot. And keep again. Now I'll work the dots third layer using this green tool. The distance is more, so I'm going to keep one dot, take a lot of paint, keep another dot. From the third dot onwards, I'll start working. See, here you worked the dots both sides, and you can also do it only one side, and that's what I'm going to show you now. Just one main dot. Since I'm going to work the dots only one side, I need not keep the dot at the top first and then start working. I can straight away start working. This can be in one layered pattern, or you can also make it multiple layered. Now I'll make it multiple layered, the second layer using the blue tool, the big ball side obviously. Now I'll build the third layer too. I'll keep the first dot, dip it again, then start working. The next pattern that I want to show you is this. I'll keep a dot here. Now I'll start working this way, and then I'll start from here and work the other side. If you want to add layers, you can do it, and that's going to look beautiful too. Let me do it for you now. This forms a beautiful pattern. I love this pattern so much. I'll show you yet another simple pattern. I'll keep two dots now. At quite a distance. Now using this plain small tool, I'm going to keep a dot in the middle. Now for the next pattern, I'm going to keep a dot using this tool. Now I'm going to work the dot straight and curved. One last pattern for this video. I'll keep a dot. Now instead of working the dots, what I'm going to do is, I'm going to keep a plumpy dot, meaning a dot with a lot of paint, and then use the other side of the tool to just swipe it. This is one pattern. I'm sure all of these patterns are going to be very useful for you to create beautiful dot mandalas. Thank you for watching this video. Hello everyone. I welcome you all to ATM Creations, and welcome you all to Zero to Hero series of videos too. In this video, we will look at some more patterns using which you can create amazing dot mandalas. Now using this tool, I'm going to keep a dot. Now I'll keep a smaller dot here. Now I'm going to keep two side swipes here. This is a very simple pattern which I really love. I'm going to keep a dot using this tool. And now here I'm going to keep two swipes, one from bottom up, another from top down. This is a beautiful pattern too. For the next pattern, I'm going to keep a dot using this tool. Now I'm going to keep two swipes here, just one-sided. For the second swipe, the distance between the top dot and the end place is longer, so I'm keeping a lot of paint so that I can swipe till the end. So you can keep adding layers, how many ever layers you want, but it would be good to add till 4 or 5 layers, not more than that. That's my personal opinion. I'm going to keep a dot using this tool. So for this pattern, what I have to do is to imagine a V above this dot. You only have to imagine this shape, but for your reference, I have written V here. The first layer of double side swipe is done. Now I'll do second layer. Now I'm going to build the third layer to this pattern. I'm keeping a dot using this tool. Instead of a V shape, now I'll imagine a straight line. Now I'll draw the first layer of swipe. Now I'll do second layer. Now I'll do third layer. See, when you compare these two patterns, I used the same tool, color, everything is the same. Only difference is here I imagine V shape above the dot. Here it is a wider straight line above the dot. That's the only difference between the two. Now I'll tell you another variation to the same pattern like this. I'm keeping a dot using this tool now. Now I'll use these three plain tools, small, medium and big, to keep dots at the top. So first I'll keep a dot using the small tool, then using the medium tool, and then using the big tool. Now in this pattern, there are 3 top dots here and I have made it incrementally bigger. It is not necessary or it is not the rule that you have to do it. All the top dots can be of the same size too. So first layer of swipes is what I'm going to do now. Now second layer. Now the third layer. This makes another beautiful pattern. I'm keeping a dot using this tool. Now I'm using this plain small tool. I'm going to keep 2 dots at the top. And then one more at the top here. Then using a tool of your choice, here I'm using this blue nail art tool and I'm choosing the big ball side of it. I can either walk the dots or I can create a swipe. I'm keeping a dot. Now I'll keep 3 dots. Now I'll walk the dots instead of swiping. We were doing curved swipes here. We will now try some straight swipes. A general pattern that I normally do with these tools is this. I'll keep a straight swipe like this. See, once you start dragging, you don't lift your tool. Keep dragging. And then 2 side swipes. They will be little curved, slightly curved. And if you want to add layers, you can keep adding. So you can keep adding layers like this depending on the space you have. Sometimes in a circle, I'll keep only straight swipes. Instead of these curved swipes, I'll keep only this one. Let me show you an example. See, for example, so what I do is in a circle, I'll intentionally leave some space between any 2 straight swipes so that what I can do is in an alternate color, which is complementing, I'll keep a reverse straight swipe. Here I am doing it on a straight line, but in a mandala you would be doing it in circular fashion, and this pattern would look much better in a circular fashion. There is another way of handling these swipes. So instead of using the tool itself to drag the swipe, what I do is I'll keep lumpy dots. I'll show you an example. Like this, I keep lumpy dots and then take a tool with the tiniest ball in it, drag it manually to look like a swipe. So whenever you want to plump your swipe and you want to have control over the shape of the swipe, this is the way you can handle it. Now I can also handle the reverse swiping the same way. I majorly keep lumpy dot and then make it to a swipe. It's very rare that I use a tool and then keep a swipe. I somehow like this plumpy swipes more. Let's look at a different pattern now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a plumpy dot and make it to a swipe. I'll keep a dot at the top. Now I'll work the dots. So you can keep adding layers to this. I'll add one more layer and show it to you now. I'm keeping another dot to add another layer. Now I'm going to work the dots. See, this makes a beautiful pattern, right? Here we work the dots with the swipe. Similarly, you can do it with a dot which I have shown you already. You can also draw an eye shape, or you can draw a diamond shape and still make it something like this. Let me show you how. I drew an eye shape here. I drew an eye shape here. I'll keep a dot. I'm going to fill the pattern with the paint. Then you can keep a dot at the top. Now work the dots. For this pattern also you can keep adding layers. Maybe I'll add one more layer and show it to you how it looks. I'll keep one more layer. I'll draw a diamond shape, okay? I'll keep a plumpy dot here. I'll fill this pattern with this paint. Now I'll work the dots. I'll keep two dots, then start working the dots. So I'll work the dots first layer now. Now I'll work the dots second layer. I'm sure these patterns are very useful to you in making amazing mandalas. Thank you for watching this video.